Hi folks. Well, I've just replied to a video. 3 times I've replied to it. Ugh. Yeah, I got annoyed. I was watching Savannah Hearn. She's on TalkSport the early morning. And her sister talking about football, talking about Man United, and talking about the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, when he first met the women's captain, the captain of the women's Man United women's football team, he asked her who she was. He didn't recognise her. And they were acting as if that was a horrible thing to have done, so disrespectful to her. Well, then Jim Ratcliffe then goes and explains why the men's football is more important and more of a focus than women's. Basically, men's football brings in around about 98.5% of the income that comes in from football comes in from men's football. Women's football brings in just over 1.5%. So less than 1.6, about 1.5.5. Women's football brings in 10 million. Men's football brings in 640 million. And Shaban then goes on to say, well, if the boardroom is full of people that look like Sir Jim Ratcliffe, then obviously they can easily forget about women. But excuse me, you stupid bloody person. If the women's football, if in any company, if there's part of that company that's bringing in only just over 1.5%, I'm pretty bloody sure that you're not going to put that part of that company as high up as the other parts that bring in 40-50%. Yeah, you're going to say, well, hold it, no. As a company, what's more important to us are the ones that are bringing in the money. Right? Obviously the ones that have got the most blinking support. Well, the problem is, again, they kept on pushing that Man United should keep pushing women's football. Should be trying to sell tickets to the games and, to use the proper stadium to sell 50,000 tickets to women's football. Why? These same women say that women don't need men, that we don't need men, that women are capable. Well, really, then go and do it yourself. Yeah, Man United women's football team, they didn't have to go up from, when they were created again. So they were only started a few years ago, not that long ago at all. So when they were created again, they didn't have to start in Division 4 and take 4 years, 5 years to get up to. No. They started up in, I think, the first division, and by, I think, the second year, they were in the Prem. It was given to them. Right? You have teams in the Premiership of the men's football now. Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Ipswich, Brentford, who have spent years working incredibly hard, fighting and struggling to get up into the top level of football. Women just get it handed to them, and it's never enough. It's not enough. They talk about equal rights. All they want is equal rights. Okay, yeah. You bring in just over 1.5%, not even 1.6. You'd only bring in 1.6%, right? And you want at least 20, maybe 30% of the recognition that men's football get. Excuse me, why should you get any more than 1.5? If you're talking about equal means what you get that reward for what you get. Well, one of my comments I pointed out, well, we had that video that showed that retired and under 18s Wrexham players played against the women's American team, the ones who actually won the World Cup. These very players that were asking for equal to what the men's American football team got for playing the World Cup, right? Because the men's, football in America brings in, say, 20 billion. Women's football brings in about 20 million. But the women were expecting to be paid exactly the same as the men, even though they bring in a pittance in comparison. And the Wrexham retired and under 18s players absolutely easily thrashed the American World Cup winning team, World Cup winning players. Easily thrashed them. Yeah, it was. But as I say, I wouldn't care less, right? If women's football started playing against men at the same level as what the women were at, and earned their way, and weren't expecting a massive handout, and were saying, look, we see ourselves as equal, just treat us fairly. Treat us as you would a men's team. Right? Okay, no problem. I would have no problem. But because they're saying treat us so much better than you would treat a men's team, pay us so much more than you would pay a men's team, well, we want a far higher percentage than what the men get. No. Most of Europe and America now have extreme right-wing politicians in power. Because people have got very, very fed up with the left-wing agenda. The more you push a left-wing agenda, the more the pendulum will swing in the opposite direction. Be careful how much you push. Because the further it goes to the right, you won't like it where it stops. You really, really won't. So, except right now, okay, you've got a pretty cushy deal. You've got Premier League women's football. And you haven't really had to work for it. So, enjoy it. And stop pushing. Enjoy it. Take care. Bye-bye.